Well, you're talking to me now in, what, 3 or 4 months into a Broadway run of a play. So the next thing I will not be doing is a play. Not because I hate it, but because of the demands that it makes, theatre, on your stamina and your equipment and your stamina, again. You have to really learn how to use yourself in life, because your whole day is aiming towards this sort of 8 o'clock or 7 o'clock release of energy, and it's very different every night. And it goes on 8 times a week for, in this case, probably 5 months. Just in terms of the detail of it, that's very different to going to a film set, maybe having one scene to shoot on one day. Maybe you only have 10 lines or something. But of course, the pill, or the thing you have to work with, is the fact that those 10 lines you might have to do 30 takes, maybe. And every one of them has to be as found, as fresh, as every other one. And there may well be technical things that screw it up, and not your fault at all. So it's just a different use of yourself. And you might be on some windswept plain, or as I have been, covered in black wool in the Australian outback, lying down in 40-something degrees of heat. It's a whole different ballgame. But I've been fortunate to do both, because I've actually found that working on film actively helps me on stage, because it persuades you that less is more, in case you haven't ever worked that one out. And actually just standing still and thinking on stage will transmit. People will pick it up.
And is there, in terms of space, again, you know, on a film set, as you're here surrounded by lights, you need to stop for a second. Is there a difference? Is there well, not a difference, but is there, I mean, you know, you talk about the theater and you talk about a place like the Harvey with people leaning in and the audience all being, you know, Peter Brook has, again, written about this many times, about the kind of almost religious sort of feeling of a theater set as opposed to a film set. Is that, do you think that that's important? Do you think that it's just two different beasts, or?
I think it's very important, and I think they are two different beasts in a way, because in a theatre, Peter Brook talks about choose your church carefully, I seem to remember. Yes, it's unnameable what happens. You've got to be talking about great writing, and then you've got to be talking about honest endeavours between director, actor, designer, to pass the work that you do in a rehearsal room over to an audience, and that there is an interchange and it's received, and then something else happens in a theatre. And it's human, and I believe a human need to be told stories. It's how we make sense of ourselves. It's how we figure out who we are or how we've changed. It's why the word theatre has to reinvent itself all the time in order to keep up with what's happening in society. But having said that, you can still put a couple of actors or one actor in an empty space, and something magical will happen. You know, I was just at the Harvey recently watching John Hurt doing Krapp's Last Tape to 800 people. Film, well, you make the piece of work. You've chosen to say yes to a script, and then basically from that moment on you cross your fingers, because you show up, you shoot it, hopefully with an honest heart and mind, and hopefully in a collaborative way, and then you cross your fingers as it goes into an editing room, and then from there into a marketing department, and then, you know, everybody's got their finger up to some unknown wind, really, with a movie, and it's very much easier to take a sledgehammer to mass expectations with films. I think film can make people more stupid, and people who are not connected with the making of films can make a great deal of money. And that, of course, is the huge difference, would be the word money, I think, in terms of film and theatre, on one level. But of course, having said that, we've all also had our lives doubtless changed, deeply affected by brilliant works of film. So I'm obviously not saying one is better than the other. But by and large, well, I suppose you can dumb down audiences in the theatre too, pretty easily.